podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PMR.
From the land beyond, from the world past hope and fear, I bid you, Genie, now appear.
Cavebabble. Hello and welcome to Cavebabble episode 259. This week's episode, the 7th Voyage of Sinbad. This episode is brought to you by the Bosses of Colossa.
The bosses. Oh yeah, we have a couple of boss battles, don't we?
Yeah, we have lots of bosses on Colossa.
Well, I don't know about lots, but 3.
Man, spoiler alert. Hey, everyone.
Maybe 4, if you count.
Yeah, maybe 4. This is the 4th. This is the 5th boss, Eric. And where's Valerie?
Oh, you're introducing yourself as a boss? Oh, that's kind of not humble.
Now I understand why you were confused. It's like, I'm not the boss of anything. I thought
the 5th boss, and I thought you were introducing, still talking about the island.
Nope,
yeah.
I totally understand your confusion.
Well, I'm not a boss. This is Valerie.
Man, make me sound like a jerk. I mean, I am one, but that doesn't mean. But, you don't have to make it so obvious. How are you today, babe?
Doing great. We're finally, knock on wood, out of the polar vortex.
The vortex has left us, and it's invading. I guess it's still back east, but it's not here now.
And neither my car nor our furnace liked it when it was that cold.
Nope, not at all. Your car wouldn't start at all. We don't know what happened.
No, we thought it was a dead battery, but as soon as it warmed up, now it's running fine again, so it definitely wasn't the battery.
Welcome to Car Talk with Eric and Valerie, bosses.
So yes, those of you who are listening, if you guys have a push-button start, how do you like it? I don't think I like my push-button start.
My name's Valerie, and I have a push-button start. Are you sure? Are you sure you're not a boss?
No, I'm a whiner.
I don't know. I'm not a boss. I'm a whiner. Oh, now I know I'm a whiner, so I can be that.
Anyways, we're not here to talk about the polar vortex or cars that won't start. We're here to talk about what?
Classic films.
Yeah, this one is classic. Does that mean old?
Okay, yeah. Well, here's really how it went. Yesterday when we were talking about what to do for the show, you said, so do we want to watch something for the show? I said, yeah, I want to play a crappy movie that I torture you with, and then we can podcast about that, because I will be honest, that's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, you like to do that. You like to show, and then I'm thinking, what the hey? Is this supposed to be good? Because it's not.
And usually your response is, does anyone want to hear about that movie? And I always say, have you ever watched Mystery Science Theater 3000?
That's true. I guess, there are. The fact that it still plays shows that there's obviously people that still watch it.
I just wonder sometimes, though, if people look at the titles that we are covering and say, maybe not.
Yeah, I wonder. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they do. Guess what they said last week about Star Trek Discovery? They said, maybe not. That's what they said about last week. We didn't have very many downloads from last week. Guys,
they weren't very interested in that one, huh?
Do you not like Star Trek Discovery, everybody? Guess what? We like it even more than we did for the pilot episode. How's that?
Yep.
A little follow-up.
We binge-watched all the season 1 and caught the first episode of season 2. And
fully enjoyed it. I like Michael Burnham now. She is just fine. But I can say that they should have just made this in its own timeline. They should have just gone ahead in time and not tried to fill in.
Yeah, not tried to fit it in.
No. I don't think so. I don't think they should have done that.
No, they should have continued forward.
Right.
Yeah, with their own timeline.
Yeah, I think that's where they got in trouble, is putting the connective tissue into the rest of the series, and I don't think you should have to do that.
Nope, I think they made it too difficult. More difficult than it needed to be. Yeah.
I think you need to do more of that. I mean, jumping through hoops saying, well, they didn't mention this on the original series, so therefore it could have happened. And I was like, well, come on. Everybody knows the reason they didn't mention it on the original series is it wasn't part of the timeline. That's why. Mm-hmm. If you're going to retcon, just say that you're retconning and don't try to make it sound like, well, they didn't say they didn't do that. So
anyways, we're not talking about
yes, we are.
Time. But we just did, so.
We are talking about dun 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 dun. That's what we're talking about today.
Cool.
You'll hear that over and over again watching this movie.
Ad nauseum.
Ad nauseum. So let's just do it. It's adventure time. It's time for a classic. From 1958, The 7th Voyage of Sinbad.
Journey to a magical time when demons and heroes battled for the golden treasures and human spoils of forgotten kingdoms. This is Sinbad's greatest adventure. The 7th Voyage of Sinbad.
Dun 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 dun
dun dun. Directed by Nathan Duran probably is what his name is. And what do you know him from? The director, Nathan Duran.
Well, he was Austrian born. He was actually a professional architect before he became a director. He started entered the film industry in 1937 as an art director.
So please tell me that when he was an architect, he was part of a firm with his father and they were Duran.
Oh, see.
Oh, dad joke number one.
Yeah. But he first, this film, so he did when he first started doing actual films, at least on his timeline here, shows it at 1952. So he did, from 1937 to 52, he was art director. So he went from doing architect to art director, and he was art director from 1937 to when he did his first film in 1952. And then he directed two of my most favorite TV series from all time. I remember from growing up was Lost in Space and Land of the Giants. I loved both of those TV series growing up.
Hey, everybody, have you ever seen Land of the Giants? It's pretty bad.
Oh, I loved it.
It's great.
That brings back fond memories because both of those were when I was young and still living with my parents, and we would watch these together, and like we used to do as with our girls, watch TV series, and we'd just have a hoot, sit there with our popcorn, and just made it special.
Oh, remember that time when we watched something and ate popcorn together?
See, you're
right. My God, that was so much fun.
Do you guys remember sitting there and watching movies and eating popcorn with your kids?
I shouldn't make fun of Land of the Giants because I watched Land of the Lost when I was a kid. And you talk about a bad show. That was a bad show.
But Nathan lived to the ripe age of 95. He died October 2002 in Palos Verdes, California.
Hopefully 20 of those years weren't wishing that he was dying.
Oh, hope not. Yeah.
That was a horrible thing to say. I'm sure he was just fine until the day that he died. He was great. He died in his sleep and was a happy man. I have no idea how he died. Before we even talk about anything, should we go through the cast?
Sure.
Let's do that. Hey, we're doing things in order this week, folks. It's almost like we've recorded 3 weeks in a row now.
Here we skipped last week.
Oh, that's right. We did. Never mind. Never mind. Oh, okay. Here we go. So who starred in this movie? Well, first of all, we have Sinbad himself, Kerwin Matthews.
Captain Sinbad!
Kerwin Matthews, born January 8th. time, 1926 in
26.
Seattle, Washington.
He's a
And
Seattle guy.
died July 5th, 2007 at the age of 81 in San Francisco.
Francisco.
This poor guy, when they were filming this film, when they came to do the very last shot for the film, as everyone knows, they never filmed the film in actual order. So the last scene that they shot of this movie was that scene, the boat as they're maneuvering, with all the people screaming because they're going insane from the
Can't wait to talk
sirens.
about that. Yeah, I can't
Yep,
wait.
that was the last shot that they filmed. And so his part where he had to come up and pilot the ship
he's
because everybody else was insane.
Yeah, he takes the wheel.
He was deathly ill.
Oh, really?
He was running a fever of 107.
Seriously?
Yes.
107?
Yeah, he was deathly ill, but they said, can you please do this last shot? And so here he is running a fever of 107.
That doesn't
And you
sound
know
right.
where you said they kept throwing buckets of water
Oh, my
on them?
God, yes, they did.
They had the fire station there with their fire brigade.
With their
throwing
hoses?
buckets with their hoses.
Okay, yeah, the hoses were the rain. The rain was the hoses, but someone was okay. We'll talk about that.
Buckets
We'll talk about that because my God, I laughed so hard during that part. Okay, anything else on him? I don't even know him from other things, honestly.
No.
I'm sure he was in everything, but I know him from this movie. I've seen this movie so many times.
The first scene he filmed was the princess on the pillow.
Was the princess on the pillow?
Was the first scene that he filmed.
You remember that classic Disney movie, The Princess and the Pillow? Oh, wait. Maybe that wasn't Disney. Maybe that was Vivid.
Princess on the pillow.
Maybe that was Vivid Video that did that one. Oh, family show, Eric. Family show. All I will say about him is I am as Persian as he is.
Yeah.
100%. And guess what? I ain't Persian at all. So that tells you what you need to know about this movie. There is whitewashing everywhere. Shall we go on?
Sure.
Catherine Grant as Princess Parissa, however you said it. Parissa, I think is what you said, because you thought they kept saying Marissa.
Yeah, I kept thinking he was saying Marissa with an M, not a P.
With
but
a
it's a
P.
P.
That's right.
She was born November 25th, 1933 in Houston, Texas. And she's been, I guess, first appeared on stage at age 3. But then she went on to go to University of Texas and actually graduated as a nurse.
Oh, she's a nurse, or was a nurse. She's not around anymore, right?
But then she found her way into films through a beauty pageant. Yeah.
She is still alive.
Yep, she is still alive. Yep.
Wow, that's awesome. Through a beauty pageant. Now, I have to say, back when she was 3 or 5 or whatever, you said 5 when she had her first role? Did
3.
she? Oh, 3. Did she have that little swoopy curl down the face?
Oh, that was irritating, wasn't it? Yeah. Whoever thought that hairstyle was good. She actually had her last film that she has listed. She did it in 2010. She was Elizabeth Lambert in Queen of the Lot.
Queen of the Lot. That must be about trailers, right?
So just 9 years ago. Yeah.
Huh. Now, let's see here. The next one I should say is Richard Eyre as the Genie.
The slave of the lamp is yours to command.
I don't know what I think about him, but what about
what did you say? You said that this was a typical of...
Richard Eyre, he is... Maybe because he was in so many things at that time, I can imagine as a kid, he must have played several roles. He, in this movie, is every single white kid in movies back in the 50s and early 60s. He is like the prototypical kid in movies. And he kind of drives me crazy. Although in The Lamp, he was fine. And later on, he was okay. But there's something about that voice when they do that double, they give him that effect on his voice. And they put a little makeup on him to make him a little darker, a little bronzer. And other than that, he just is every single kid in every movie like this that I don't know what it is about them. There's something about the way that they act in the films that you kind of get the feeling that when he's not there, he's like chucking spitballs at people and stuff.
Yeah, they quote cast him because he's got the clean-cut, all-American look.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm talking about, is that, Alfred E. Newman I don't know what to say, that I associate with kids of that era and their acting abilities. Although he was just fine. Honestly, his acting was just fine.
Yeah.
But
he was born May 6, 1945 in Santa Monica, California.
And he's still alive as well.
Yepper. He doesn't look like he's still acting. Looks like his last thing that he filmed was actually a TV series. He was Private Keen in Combat, the Combat TV series, 1967. And he was in Lassie.
The TV version.
Mm-hmm.
On TV.
Says he now lives in a small town east of California's Sierra Nevada mountains and teaches elementary school.
I thought you were going to say east of California. It's like, that's every state. Yeah.
He teaches elementary school.
Well, okay, they didn't want to tell us exactly where he's at. I want to look him up. Now I want to visit his classroom. Is he still there, I wonder?
After leaving the entertainment industry, here you go, he became a teacher and taught, past tense, elementary school children in Bishop, California.
Okay, it was Bishop that he was at.
Yeah, Bishop.
Well, okay, so I can't look him up anymore. Oh, I'm sorry,
But then
Richard.
down here, it says in present tense, he teaches 3rd grade in Bishop, California. So,
Are you telling me that something on IMDb is ambiguous?
yeah, see, exactly.
Come on.
So you interpret it. If he's still teaching, he might be there. If somebody from Bishop is listening, he might be teaching still.
He may be. Acting lessons. Okay, moving on. Torin Thatcher as Sakura the Magician.
Sakura! 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 Sakura!
Yeah. He was an intense man, wasn't
Yeah, he played his part well.
he? Yeah, he played his part well, and guess what? Why would anyone believe anything that he ever said? Ever?
I know, exactly.
He was the least believable person. I mean, when he spoke, he was like, yeah, and I need a ship and a crew. He was so obvious. And Sinbad spent his whole time, Kerwin Matthews spent his whole time looking at him sideways like, yeah, like I believe you. But then he went along with him all the time.
I know. He was born January 15th, 1905 in Bombay, India.
Yep.
And he died at the age of 76 in Thousand Oaks.
Oh, in Thousand Oaks.
1981.
We lived not too far from there.
Yeah, we actually were in California we didn't live too far from Thousand Oaks ourselves.
Nope, we sure didn't. Alfred Brown. Oh, we will talk more about Sakura as we get into the movie.
Yes.
Alfred Brown as Harufa, the first mate, who ends up dying. Oh, spoiler alert, I'm sorry.
I'm only sad about one thing. I shall miss Harufa.
He did? He ended up dying?
He sure did. He got stabbed by Sakura. Yeah.
Yeah.
With a spear. He got speared.
Oh, he got speared. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he sure did.
But was that right at the beginning when
Nope.
they first...
Nope, it was when they were on the island after the rock took...
When they came back the second time?
Yeah, when they came back the second time. Mm-hmm.
And the rock
with the bird.
capsized.
After the bird. No, after the rock bird?
You said after the rock. Yeah.
Rock as in the giant bird.
Oh.
After
okay.
after the rock.
I was going to say the rock.
The
You mean
rock
after
was
the
in
rock
this?
capsized the boat? What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? The rock,
You should
Dwayne?
just say the giant two-headed bird. Then I would have understood what you were talking
You remember when Dwayne Johnson flew in and capsized the boat?
The rock?
What the rock is cooking.
I know. I was going to say the rock was in this movie.
Oh, God, I love that scene. I swore that they put that in later, but who am I to say? Who am I to say? He must have been promoting his new film.
Hey, that's what it was.
I liked Harufa, or however you said his name, because he was actually more captain-y than the captain. I thought he should be captain.
Yeah, in fact, when Kerwin, when the movie begins, when it first opens, they're on his ship and Sinbad's at the wheel, and I'm just thinking, God, he's a terrible actor.
He's a terrible actor, and
he
he
had
had
that wide-eyed look and
everything
wearing
he
his
did.
high school Letterman jacket.
Yeah, it looked like
jacket.
leather, didn't it? It did look like leather, and his wide-eyed
Letter.
Letterman jacket.
Like a letter, like.
Okay, I'm with you. Yeah, it does look like a Letterman jacket, doesn't it? And that wide-eyed stare through that whole first scene was hilarious. Everything he was so intense, babe.
Yeah.
So intense.
He was bad.
Yeah, he was really bad.
Bad. He got better as a movie went on, but that scene, he was overacting.
Yeah, he really was overacting. Okay, let's see here. Nana or Nana, as Nana Visitor from Deep Space Nine says her name. Nana or Nana De Herrera plays Sadi.
Sadi, you must be more polite to the captain.
Princess Parisa's waiting woman who gets turned into a snake lady. She was really funny. And that whole scene when the Sakura, the magician, was talking to her, when I was looking at that scene, she's holding her arms up in a way that no one ever stands that way.
No,
You'd have to
not
see
at
it.
all.
If you look at the scene, folks, where Sakura is talking her into becoming his test subject for his show that he's putting on in Baghdad. Look at how she's holding her arms in that scene and wonder why she is doing that.
Say, well, yeah, who would tell her stand there like that?
So what do you know about her? I don't know anything about her.
You don't? Well, why don't you know anything about her?
Well, has she been in anything? Oh, guess what? No. She was in The Pride and the Passion and the 7th Voyage of Sinbad in 57 and 58, and that's it.
Yep, she doesn't have much of a...
She has a very, what I would consider a Greek nose. She looks like she's Greek, doesn't she? To me, she would be right at home in one of those sword and sandal movies about Greece. As a matter of fact, she reminds me of the lady on The Music Man, the Grecian urn, trickle, trickle, trickle. She reminds me of her.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
But I guess what she, should be proud of is that was one of the, obviously her body was made into the claymation. And this film was the very first film to use claymation, stop motion, animation for in color.
In widescreen, too.
Yep. First film to use that effect in.
As a matter of fact, here, I will separate my voice saying, in Dynamation.
There
you go. Which was created by Ray Harryhausen, who did all of the effects work in this movie.
And this was the film that he introduced that visual effect.
The new miracle of the screen is what it said about Dynamation. Miracle of the screen, babe.
Miracle. Well, it probably was in those days. Like I said, this film held up. I enjoyed it.
I absolutely loved this film as a kid. This is one I would catch on matinees on Sundays every now and then. Is where I believe I saw it for the first time. And I loved this movie. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Loved Ray Harryhausen's work. I love the Cyclops. I love the dragon, everything about it. So there you go.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody. So is that it for the cast? I mean, we could do the Khalif,
I think so.
The dads. We could introduce
the main
dads,
ones.
But, and a cast of thousands, not. A cast of...
He had quite a few, though.
A cast of hundreds, not. A cast of tens on the ship who all died mostly by falling off cliffs.
Yeah, they didn't have very good balance for being sailors.
Well, they were sailors. They were better on the ship than they were on land. They should have
true.
They should have just stayed on there. So this movie has a great score. I mean, other than that song that they play all the time, the main theme they play over and over and over.
And it was orchestrated, right? I mean,
it
was orchestrated.
It's a wonderful score. As a matter of fact, I made a mention of it during the skeleton fighting scene. I said, I like that music. It was great fighting a skeleton type of music. It had like it was almost sounded like a skeleton. And that was composed by Bernard Herrmann. It's Herman, Herrmann, so Herrmann. And he is a famous composer who did a lot of genre stuff. He worked with this director, or at least on Lost in Space. I think he did some composing for Lost in Space. But he's known for working with Alfred Hitchcock. So you just look at his list of scores. He has lots of stuff that that he wrote for, and I like his music very much so.
Yeah.
I liked at the beginning of this movie where the first note that I had was, what the hell is up with the audio? It sounds like it was, recorded in a tin can. It's all echoey, and I don't remember it being like this. And then I realized that our stereo was set wrong.
And it's like, they're better when you set it to the correct sound.
It was set for the Hall effect, which I don't even know why that is on our stereo. Why would I want to hear things that sound like they're speaking in a hall?
Yeah, good question.
I don't know. So once I turned that off, this movie was much better. Let's talk about that tiny piece of hair on her head. Can we do that, please?
Yeah, well, I think we've talked about it enough. I don't think we should focus on because it was,
But I focused on it, and I couldn't, every scene she was in with Sinbad, all I thought was, he's staring at that thing on her head, right?
And I don't understand that hairstyle, other than the fact it looked like she maybe had not a receding hairline, but it looked like she had a high forehead on that side, and they just might have done that to kind of fill in that space.
But it was so obvious. It's almost like they just did took a paintbrush and painted down part of her face on just a little bit on that.
Yeah, or glue sticked, took a glue stick and stuck a few wisps of curl there.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it was pretty bad. But it was consistent, I have to say. It was that way through the entire movie.
It was, yeah.
So they got it right. We already talked about the intensity of the beginning with his eye acting was really bad. Mm-hmm. But then I wrote a note saying that, like, when we first introduce her and he goes in and he's staring at her hair as he's speaking to her, at the end of that scene, he kisses her. It's this passionate kiss, but he has his eyes open the entire time.
Yeah, that really bothered
me. And it really bothered me. There's something about that in movies when people have that. It's like a disingenuine thing. It's like, you don't kiss people like that. No one I know. How many people do I actually watch kiss? Not really that many, but
I would hope not.
You don't keep your eyes open. That is the weirdest thing. I mean, unless you're doing the staring into each other's eyes, smooch or something like that. When you're doing your passionate kiss, you're not staring at the side of her face, are you?
You would hope not.
You don't do that. Mm-hmm. Come on, Sinbad, don't do that.
But then again, if you're always got to be situationally aware and you're afraid somebody's going to come at you, while you're vulnerable, I guess you would keep your eyes open. Big goof in this, and I thought I had caught it, but I didn't say anything as we were watching. But right at the beginning of the film,
maybe I didn't catch it.
The exterior shot of the ship as we're coming up upon, they show the ship before they reach the island for the first time.
Colossa. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Then so when they're first coming up to the island, the shot of the ship it has one large triangular sail. And so that's a common ship for the medieval Mediterranean vessels. Okay. Then when they're leaving the island for the first time, it's now all of a sudden a 16th century galleon with the 3 square sails on 3 separate masts. So
they must have put in stock footage from something else.
Must be.
Maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't even notice that.
Big goof that the two, and I thought I had caught that. I said, that's not the same ship.
Now that you mentioned that, I can picture it in my head, and you're right. Mm-hmm. It was a different one. I did notice later on that in the middle of that horrendous storm around the island with the screeches, they had all the sails up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
First thing you do in the storm is take those sails down, so they don't rip apart like they are on there. Yeah.
Right. When you're going into bad weather, you take the sails down.
I thought it was kind of odd that at the beginning they arrive at the island, right? Mm-hmm. And there's the whole Cyclops thing, and the wizard comes out. And then they take off with the wizard, and then they leave the island for a good portion of the movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They just take off. I mean, they're there where all the cool stuff is, and then they just leave.
Because they were needing to get back to, where was it, Baghdad?
Baghdad. Yeah, they're going back to Baghdad.
Because they were, getting married.
Right. And it was like, no, we're not hanging out at that island. And I liked how adamant that Sinbad was like, hell no, I'm not going back to that island.
Right.
That's a dangerous place. Forget that.
Enjoy my new wife.
But the wizard, Sakura, who I will introduce here.
I am honored to be summoned to your presence.
Like I said, he's like the quintessential bad guy that You know, just by any sort of conversation with him at all, just the way that his eyes look, you are never going to trust that guy, babe.
Right, don't ever trust him. And they knew that
Never.
the magician was manipulating them.
Yeah.
So when would you ever trust what he says? But no.
And, and Sinbad knows that he's a bad seed, and he knows that he can't trust him. But when they get back to Baghdad and suddenly the princess is shrunk down to itty bitty size, they don't assume that he did it. What the hell did they think happened to her? And I liked how her dad got all pissed, like, okay, now there'll be no, I'm going to tear Baghdad apart now because my daughter's tiny. What?
But before she turned tiny, let's go back to the
I'm sorry. Yeah, we will.
The where they turned the lady, her
the snake woman.
Yeah, into the snake woman. So we caught a couple of goofs there because they really did. When the magician reaches down in the basket to pick up the cobra, when they switch to the close-up of the person catching the snake, it's a different man's hand.
Yeah, right. You got a snake handler.
Yeah, the sleeves are different colors. Well, then, of course, you and I caught when they go to throw the snake into the jar, it's blue, not brown.
It changes color and is a stiff stick-looking thing, almost like throwing a candle into it or something.
And here's something that this is only a problem when we're watching it in full frame, the full frame version. The snake is not blue colored when you watch this in the correct 1:85:1 theatrical aspect ratio is what this says.
Well, they changed it for the close-up? For the cropped version?
Depending on which version. If you watch the theatrical version, it's the correct color. If you watch the full frame version is how you see. Okay. For some reason, the ratio makes it blue.
Yeah, I wondered if it looked like it had been cropped in some of the scenes, but I wasn't sure how wide it was. So it really wasn't a very wide. It was like you said 1:8:1 or something like that.
1:8:5:1.
1:8:5:1. Okay, so that's not an extreme. So we didn't miss too much information, but yeah, you could tell that in some of the shots it looked like it was zoomed, and that was not.
I thought what they did is well, maybe they just didn't cover, like I said, because when he does his hocus pocus over the jar before he revealed the snake woman, out came that same blue colored smoke.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was that he handed in a jar of that smoke and then said, okay, lady, after I say these words, open up the jar so that the smoke comes out.
Oh, okay.
It was what I was thinking they did.
So it just must have been a difference in color timing or something when they did the full restore at the full frame. It showed the actual color.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you what, okay, we're even going back in time again where they first arrive around Baghdad. I want to ride around in a light blue palanquin. That sounds, I want to be carried around that way, don't you?
Yeah.
It was
No,
baby
I
blue.
don't.
Whatever it's called. What are they called?
Palanquin.
I have no desire to be carried on the backs of other people.
I don't, but it was really hard to hide in that, right? I think everyone knows who's coming.
Exactly. And that's exactly why they do it, so that and I'm just not into, as you know, pomp and circumstance. I don't,
As my note said, I want to ride around in a light blue poof. It's a poof. Here's one thing I would like. When the princess, when she arrives with her father, they ring the gong when they get there. There's something about that scene that really cracked me up because everything stopped. Bong! Here they are. And then the music starts again. If I can't ride around in the light blue poof, can I at least be introduced that way everywhere I go?
See, with a big gong.
Yeah. I need something, babe. Give me something. Throw me a bone.
Throw you a bone?
Yeah, please let me do something fun. I can't call myself, what was it at the beginning of the show? I said...
boss.
I was boss, that's right. If I can't be boss, can I at least be announced with a gong?
Please, can I enter with a gong? Yeah.
Costuming. Let's talk about costuming.
Okay.
Boy, was there a lot of costuming in this movie. They put together, tell you what, they knew it was a color film, right? Because they put every imaginable color and combination and
patterns
pattern
and stripes and
all. Jeez, Louise, it was crazy.
Yeah, they threw a lot of, but there again,
they were beautiful and hideous at the same time.
Yeah, there were a lot of mistakes with because of course in those days there were no zippers, and the princess during the magic show, her dress obviously had a zipper.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I think my favorites, well, some of my favorites were the guys who brought in the snake and the big urn and all of that, and then were standing behind them as they were sitting with the caliph. Those guys, just if you look at just those guys, just look at those guys. They had the striped pants. They had like this pink and blue or something around their neck.
Yeah, scarf collars.
And then they had this totally different colored and striped or whatever turbans they had. And it was hideous together. It was so bad. Some of them were really pretty. There was one point that Sinbad was wearing this purple turban and sash along with like this yellowish white top or something.
Yeah, that looked nice.
That was the first scene you were talking about. That was when she was on the pillow. That was a cool costume. He actually had some good ones other than his regular one where he looked like some performer's monkey.
Yeah, for that scene when he did that very first scene that he did, it's amazing what he had to go through to do that scene. They had to. I'm trying to find the information, but it's amazing. He was brought in by plane and then had to take another plane. Landed in Paris on Easter Sunday. Got on another plane which landed in Spain in the middle of the night. So then, in the middle of the night, he is put on a horse and carriage to be taken to a palace in Granada, Spain.
Okay, so it was in Spain. I was wondering where it was.
Yeah, so then, so this is the middle of the night, and he's traveled all this time, and so then he gets robed, put into that outfit that you were just describing, and said, okay, now pretend you're talking to a little girl here on the pillow. Yeah, that was the first scene he filmed.
That is so funny that you put it right there, because my next note after the costumes was, where did they film this? So there you go. You just answered it. That
Spain.
Portion of it was filmed in Spain. And there were a lot of Spanish names in the opening credits. I said someone was Spanish. We had all kinds of names that in the production crew that made me think that, yeah, it was in Spain. I like that the shrinking scene. Let's just talk a little bit about that. When they are showing her arm shrink, could they have possibly dragged that out any longer than they did?
I know.
She's at full length, and then it shrinks. It went on for like 30 seconds or more of just watching her arm shrink.
And right at the end, when they wanted us to try to convince us that it was still her arm, yeah, it's obviously was part of the stop motion filming.
Yeah,
they had to do the fingers. Moving.
It turned into like this devil claw or something.
Yeah.
It was this little, it was kind of creepy looking for a while there. And the whole time that she was small, I got a kick out of it because she would act, just because she is shrunk to a small size doesn't mean she needs to act like Peter Pan or something. She's bouncing around and doing all of these, hands on the hip, the fists on her hips, and her toe, turned up. And all of that when she was small. And I thought, she wasn't acting like that when she was large.
Right. Why is it when you turn small, you think exactly, you turn childish?
Right. It doesn't turn her into a little kid.
It doesn't change your personality. It just changes just because you've gotten smaller doesn't mean all of a sudden you're a kid.
Right. Suddenly she got all bubbly. She was just like the little kid in the lamp at that point from that moment on. So, yeah, I thought that was really funny. And
lots of films do that. They shrink people and all of a sudden they act like little kids. It's like, what? Yeah.
And I liked how he kept her in that little, whatever it was she was riding around in that.
Yeah, that little jeweled box.
That he sticks her in. And then he just, every time that he was carrying that around, he was just like shaking it. And
it was a jeweled princess TARDIS.
She must have been in suspended animation every time she was in it, because my God, he shook that thing around. He shoves it in his pants. He fights guys with swords and goes swinging around on the ship while she's on his waist.
Supposedly.
Yeah, you can't tell He didn't even have a bulge. Yeah.
Yeah, she should have been.
Yeah, I went there. She should have given him a bulge.
You were.
I did mention it when I was talking about the cast, where the wizard had made a prophecy. Okay, they had said, well, can you tell the future? And so he tells him, you will fight, our kingdoms will fight, and blah, blah, blah. And then at that point, they're like, oh, yeah, you just want your ship. We don't believe you. You just want your ship. And then when he shrinks her down, suddenly her dad wants to go to war. Who did he think did that to her, and why would he fight Baghdad? Because he immediately said that. He was like, oh, there will be no, stone will not stand on stone when I get done with this place. Because somehow my daughter shrank because she slept on your bed? Is that what?
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. I mean, it was the only reason they had him do that is so that the wizard's, it was like a self-made prophecy. He made sure that he had that happen, right? And why did Sinbad not think that he was the one that did all that?
Right.
Because immediately he once again, for about the millionth time, asks for a ship and a crew to go find his lamp, because that's what he's after. He lost the genie lamp. It's back on the island. The Cyclops grabbed it. He has it. So he's just wanting back at the island. And they all know, and they all know he wants to be back at the island. But yet
they still seem to lose sight of that somehow.
Right. And suddenly Sinbad's like, well, I guess we'll give you what you want. And I'll go back with you.
Well, and it's only because he wanted his princess. I think maybe there again, he knew he was being buffaloed, but he also knew he had to buffalo the magician to get his wife to be brought back to normal size. So.
And I love the fact the magician said, okay, the only way that this is going to work is if we build this machine, this giant crossbow that I have this design for, and it's the only thing that will allow us to do this, right?
Yeah.
What was he thinking they were going to use that on?
Exactly. They never did. He never did say what you needed it for, but they did end up using it.
They did, but the dragon, he knows the dragon is his. That dragon's working for him. He has it chained up near his castle underground.
Yeah.
So it's not
dragon.
for that.
I hated that they killed off the dragon.
But my favorite part is not only do they have to have the crossbow, a giant crossbow, they have this big ass bolt, this arrow that they stick in it that is half the size of the ship, and they're trying to load it. They're showing them trying to load it, and it's obvious that it wouldn't go down in the cargo hold. But yet it's not just hanging out above deck the entire trip back.
Right.
Where did it go? Because the thing was obviously too huge to put anywhere. And
well, they did. They had it tied to the mast.
Oh, was that what they did? And it was that way all the way? Okay.
Yeah, they tied it to the mast. And that's why when people kept falling off of the crow's nest, I kept expecting one of them to be speared. but they never did spear any of them.
Oh, because that's true. Because it was on the way back again that they went by the Sirens Island with the screeches. Yeah, that's right. They did. But
and another thing about that Sirens, when everybody is going crazy on the ship, the fire department where they were siphoning the water, so it gets worse. They siphoned the water from a nearby harbor.
Yeah.
So that's where the water was coming from. So those poor people on the boat were being pelted with harbor water.
Ugh.
So think about what's in the water. They were being pelted with dead rats and garbage and
gross
whatever was in the harbor.
I was laughing. Well, you're my witness. I found it infinitely amusing. You not as much as I did. Every time they went back, they would cut away from the pilot. You have the pilot with the ship's wheel, right? And it's raining just like crazy because they're getting sprayed down. And every time they would go to a shot of just him, someone would chuck a bucket of water in his face. And it's the same kind of bucket and the same kind of throw and almost the same exact timing every time.
Yeah.
And so every time it was like they'd go back to him, I'd say 3, 2, 1, bucket.
Yeah.
And then they did
there-
the same thing when Sinbad took over. They did the same thing to him.
Yeah. Except
Just-
Sinbad didn't get it. Was still the guy he was pushing out of the way got the bucket.
Yeah,
of
he
water
did.
thrown
He did
on
get
him.
nailed for that last time. That was so darn funny. I don't know how many times they filmed those scenes, but oh my God, it was hilarious. The dude on bucket duty, he did a great job. Whoever that was, thumbs up to him. Because
Yeah, he did good.
it made my whole movie just watching that part over and over again. So I do like the giant arrow because, first of all, I don't know how long it took them to build that crossbow because they left right away. They were really quick.
Yeah, they were quick. Well, but there again, in film, time moves fast. They don't know how many days it was from the time they decided, yes, you can have a ship to the time they actually left. So obviously enough time to build their crossbow.
The magician said there were multiple of the Cyclops on the island. And he knows there's a dragon there, although that's his. And he knows there's at least one giant bird there, right?
Right.
How many shots do they have?
Yeah.
They have
brought
one giant arrow, one bolt for that crossbow. That entire thing that they built can be fired once,
Yeah.
and that's it. You don't have another one, and they carry it halfway across the world. Good thing, because it gets used later on. I made a note about the sound that the Cyclops makes. It's the Cyclops scream. To me, sounds like a naval klaxon, like that, woo, woo, like out of Star Wars, or like on Navy ships. I want to put the Star Wars one side by side with the one from the Cyclops and see if you guys have the same idea. Here you go. Here's the Cyclops. And here's the one from Star Wars or from Navy ships. What do you think?
Similar?
I don't know. I've not found it yet, so I don't know how close they are.
You might be totally wrong.
I may be totally wrong. If so, computer, would you tell me I'm wrong? Thank you.
So your computer will say, yes, that sounds just like it, or oh my God, where'd you think that?
Oh. Do you have more trivia before I talk about skeletons?
No, that's pretty much all the trivia that.
When they come back to the island, they make their way through the middle of the island. They fight the Cyclops, and they burn him in his eye. One of the Cyclops, I guess the second one at that point. They kill him off, and then they mess with the rock with the giant bird. Well, first the baby. There's a giant egg, and of course the crewmen break into the egg. Crewmen are the worst.
Yeah, they are. Well, they were hungry. I mean, they gave a reason for it.
Well, they also recruited criminals who were going to be executed anyway. So
right, so they already had.
They were already bad eggs. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised. They're the worst crew ever on land, though. They fall off of cliffs just at a moment's notice. And I like the one as they were climbing. The one guy, one of the sailors helps a guy up by his spear, by his staff, I mean. He helps him up this section, and then the guy, he kind of looks like he's a little unsure of himself. The next thing we know, he's falling off the cliff.
Yeah.
And I loved it because Sinbad looks over the side at him, and then he chucks his staff down.
Whatever for. Here,
like,
just in case you need it.
Hey, here, I'll give you this too.
In case you survive, here's your
Oh, can you imagine? What if he fell and happened to catch something, and all of a sudden here comes his staff. Whack! And he's dead. And he's
crazy,
dead.
Yeah.
But we lost because the bird wasn't eating any of them. It was just, he knocked two of them off the cliff just like in quick succession. It was like one guy went, and then another guy went. Mm-hmm. These poor guys, they all died from falling.
Yeah, just from falling because they couldn't keep their balance.
And the poor first mate, he really had a bad day because he was grabbed by the Cyclops and stuck on a spit on the fire and roasted for a while on a fire that was either non-existent or raging high, depending on which shot it was in. And he gets rescued from that only to get stabbed with a spear by the magician. Mm-hmm. Poor guy. Mm-hmm. I really feel bad for him.
But did you know?
No. Please hit me with it.
That this whole sword fight scene between Sinbad and the skeleton?
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess it was so popular with the audiences in this film that Harryhausen, is that how you say his last name? Harryhausen. He recreated this and expanded the scene in
Jason and the Argonauts. And that was 63, so 5 years later?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. As we were watching, I said, made that point. I said, now, Jason and the Argonauts was after this movie, so this must have been what inspired that, because the skeleton looks exactly the same. Mm-hmm. It looks just like the ones they use in that movie. And that is one of the most classic stop-motion sequences in film history, the one in Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell that this is a precursor to that. Not quite as good, a little more clunky, but still one of the better scenes in the movie. It was
very much so.
It was really good. It doesn't help that we have high definition televisions and stuff now, because the differences in focus between the claymation and the actual scenes shot with the people, the blurriness of the people and the crispness of the claymation is more obvious on our TVs than it probably was in the theater back then. Mm-hmm. So it makes those scenes a little less believable. They're not believable anyway, but it makes it even more clunky looking when, like in this fight with the skeleton, Sinbad is completely out of focus, and the claymation is really crisp and
And also this film, they took the stop motion cobra woman figure and 20 years later used that same design to do Medusa in Harryhausen's final film, Clash of the Titans. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The body, the arms and everything were much better in Clash of the Titans. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. In this one, babe, that kind of looked like a grade schooler stuck arms on her. It was so obviously clay that was just kind of smoothed out on her back when her arms are waving around like blah, 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 blah.
And like you said, they would of course, the close-ups were really the actress's face, but then they really tried not to focus on the face.
It was always in darkness or out of focus. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But granted, all for it. Like you said, was it just worse because of watching it on a high def?
I think it had a lot to do with. This was a long time ago too. These are the early eras of claymation and stop motion animation, not just clay, but. So, it's not going to hold up like a modern film. Right. But even in that scene where they're not trying to show her face as the snake woman, he still had the profile. It looked like her. The nose, it had the same kind of look of the nose and everything. He got that. Mm-hmm, yep. It did. Mm-hmm. You could tell who he was trying to do.
Exactly.
It wasn't like someone who looked totally different. It was just the mouth didn't move and the eyes didn't blink or anything like that. It was just a painted on face on it. But I thought the profile of it looked just like her. So I thought that was good. Yeah. I love the fact that after the princess talks to the genie, right? Mm-hmm. And she's like, I will help you. I promise. He's like, yeah, right. I'll be freed when this prophecy that's written on my wall for whatever reason comes true. And she reads that thing, right? And she puts it to heart. And after they fight the skeleton and they escape from the castle, the magician breaks a bridge that they're about to run over, so they can't get across. And she looks down. Well, first of all, the genie helps them get across by producing a rope. Why he didn't just give them a bridge, I don't know. But they can swing across there kind of like Luke and Leia on Star Wars. Inspiration, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, at that point, she's looking down at that lava, and she remembers that prophecy, right? Or whatever that's written on his wall, whatever you want to call that. And she puts it together and she becomes kind of convinced that she should chuck his lamp into the lava.
Let's kill this genie.
While he's inside. And she even admits, I'm not sure this is the right thing to do, but it feels like the right thing to do. And Sinbad immediately just grabs the lamp from her. He's like, well,
if you say so, hon.
You say so. And he chucks it in there.
And if the lamp is thrown into the flaming pit, he may be destroyed.
Still, your promise must be kept. Let's go.
They throw it down in there, and I thought, wow, I hope you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, of course.
And they were, of course, yeah.
But I just liked how there was no, hemming and hawing. It's like, well, I think this is right. Sure, just chuck it in. Why not?
And in the original script, at the end of the scene when we do see the genie is now a real boy, Pinocchio.
I'm a real boy now.
There was supposed to be a narration at the very end of the film, giving us Barani's and he grows up to be
oh God, can you imagine?
A sailor just like Sinbad, and so, I mean, that was
Gosh.
supposed to be, yeah. Golly gee.
Golly gee.
Yeah.
Golly genie.
But they didn't. That's what was on the original script, but they obviously didn't do that.
I felt so sorry for that poor dragon that's stuck in that cave.
Yeah, so did I.
The only thing I've got to do is stand at the end of my chain. And then
and he didn't have much space at all, and chained inside that cave.
I'm not quite sure what cranking him up against the wall did about his fire-breathing ability, but...
I guess it choked off his fire, obviously.
Maybe so, but I like how when they came back through and he broke the rope on the little cranker for the chain...
Yeah.
I thought it would just release the chain, and so then the dragon would drag the chain around. But no.
Yes, I thought too.
Suddenly, even though he wasn't any further into the passageway as before, he just cranks on it and the chain breaks.
Yeah, see, right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now the dragon is loose, and I thought, well, of course I've seen this many, many times over the years, but I thought at that point, okay, you have a dragon that you have chained up in your passageway. That thing gets loose. Aren't you going to eat the magician?
You would think so. Someone who's kept him captive all this time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would be pissed at the magician, not Sinbad and the sailors. But no, they get past because the yet another Cyclops comes and starts fighting with the dragon.
But the magician was saying, I guess obviously the dragon must have been under his power.
Yeah, because he
kept saying, "Come on, come on, come on, kill, kill,
kill." Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they get past the dragon, they being Sinbad and the princess, and they run down to the beach again, through all of that down to the beach, which suddenly was really close to where the cave was because they had crossed the entire island to get to that thing. And suddenly it was super easy to get back to the beach in the ship. And the dudes on the beach, they fire that crossbow.
Finally get to use it.
This was the scene that as a kid, it really got to me. I did not like the way that giant arrow, that bolt from that thing hits that dragon. It looks like it really hurts, and it's bloody, and it goes straight through him like a shish kebab. And that really distressed me as a kid.
Yeah, I can see why. I know when this was released in United Kingdom, they had to edit some of that for it to be able to be released there. They had to edit the the guy on the spit over the fire. They had to edit out some of that.
Oh,
violence.
That is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that was a realistic scene. I thought that was pretty good. And I liked how when the dragon dies and topples over, he lands right on the magician.
Yeah. Well, he didn't quite die because remember he got back up and died at the beach.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Like, but I did like how he crushed the magician.
Yes, he crushed. He did crush the magician.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then he came down to the beach. That's true. Oh,
yeah,
poor dragon. He didn't want to hurt him. He wanted to get out and be outside. That's what he wanted
to be free, like the genie wanted to be free.
That's right. Just wanted to be free. They should have shot the genie. I would have liked that movie better.
Could
they have fired that?
No, we should have accidentally shot the magician.
This is the scene that I have in my head. You hear the dragon screaming, and they crank back the crossbow, and then out of that cave comes running the genie, and they mistake it for the movement for the dragon, and they fire.
No, not the genie. The magician.
And it takes the genie, it just hits him, and he just flies on the end of it, and then into the dragon, and he's buried inside the dragon on the end of that.
No.
Ta-da.
That's horrible.
Dun, dun, dun,
horrible.
dun, 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 dun,
Disagree.
End credits. Dun, 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 dun.
Mm-hmm.
No? Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I disagree.
No, he has to show up on the ship and is suddenly Sinbad's cabin boy. I'll be your cabin boy. And so Sinbad's like, well, shouldn't you be preparing my cabin then?
And somehow even though he no longer has genie powers, he somehow was able to transport all the gold, the gems, and the treasure from the Cyclops cave to the boat.
Right. And by the way, all of those guys on your ship, especially since your first mate is dead, those were all criminals.
Are they? I thought all the criminals died.
Did they? Oh, well, that's true. There were the ones that were loyal to him still.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think all the criminals died, did they?
All the criminals were quickly dying off, yeah.
I did like the leering that the main mutineer guy did.
Yeah.
You know, they had a lot of scenes of him just like right toward the camera.
Yeah, he had quite the expressive face.
Yeah. He ended up falling off from the crow's nest down onto the ship. And he didn't get impaled on the arrow. I'm with you. I wish they would have shown something like that.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was hoping that he was going to get impaled on the arrow, but then he didn't.
While carrying the genie on his chest.
No.
Down onto the arrow.
Why are you trying to kill off the genie? The genie's good.
I don't know if I like him, babe. I'm not sure I like him.
You're just jealous because when you were young growing up, you wished that you could have been the genie, huh?
You know what? I was young when I grew up. You are correct. I was young when I grew up.
When you were his age watching this film. You were envious. You were wanting to be him.
I often wonder how old I was when I was seeing these. All of us have, memories of old movies we watched on TV and such. I don't remember exactly how old I was. I don't remember what year it was.
You obviously didn't see this at the theater.
Oh, no. I wasn't alive back then.
Right.
No. It was definitely on TV. As a matter of fact, the 3 main Sinbad movies, I remember them all very well from matinees and not matinees, for Sunday movies or whatever it was I watched them.
Had to have watched them at your dad's place, you and Mark. No. I said you had to have watched this at your dad's place because, with Mark, because there's no way your mom would have let you watch this.
No, she did.
Oh,
no,
yeah?
This was at home. Yeah,
oh,
I don't
really?
think I don't think she was bothered by these. She was fine with these types of movies. Did she
watch them with you?
It's a rated G. It's not rated PG or anything.
It's rated G?
Uh-huh. Yep. It sure is. I know that's hard to believe. It is hardcore with the whole genie dying several times.
Yeah, and the fighting skeleton and the blood coming out of the poor dragon.
Right.
Yeah, and the Cyclops and dragon fight. Yeah,
right, and the genie being punched inside the dragon and all of that. That's really disgusting. And when they tore his head off?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good Lord.
See, I know.
Oh, genie blood. I didn't know it was blue.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I do like, in true old movie fashion, when you show all of the credits before the film, movies just end. It's so abrupt.
Yeah, that is true. We're used to seeing the credits at the end, and this one's like, the end.
He shows them the treasure, and it zooms out, and it shows the back of the ship, and it's dun 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 dun, dun the end. Boop, and it's over.
And it's over.
Just like that. Go home, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Don't wait for the surprise scene at the end of the credits.
And would it kill you to pick up your Raisinets before you go?
And your empty popcorn boxes and your napkins all over the floor and
and your genie bodies.
And your genie bodies. Mm-hmm.
So would you suggest this for everyone?
I would.
I would too.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun, even though it's not realistic at all.
I think it's held up well from 1958. I think it's
And wouldn't this be the final voyage of Sinbad? Didn't Sinbad only have 7? Let's find out. Let's see here. Yeah, 7th and last voyage of Sinbad the Sailor, which is not this movie, by the way. They combine some of his other voyages. So the actual tales of Sinbad the Sailor, there are 7 of them, 7 voyages. The actual Middle Eastern story.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
But they didn't make films of all of them.
It's all from 1001 Nights is what this is from. Yeah, and there were only 7 within all of that.
Okay.
So, yeah, and this movie covers, like I say, I'm seeing like 5th Voyage on, because Wikipedia knows everything.
Oh, of course. Mm-hmm.
5th Voyage is the one that shows a Cyclops in it and an egg in it, and so they combined.
Okay, they combined some of his voyages.
Something about this late 50s movie is not accurate to history. That's okay. Yeah, we can suggest it. Hey, everyone, if you have an opinion on Sinbad, I won't even talk about Meatloaf this time. you may send us an email, cavebabble@gmail.com, or you head on over to you may head on over to cavebabble.com, see a list of our shows. Yep, that's what it is, a list of our shows.
Have you already shared our Cavebabble Drinks Odd Things? Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't. Hey, everyone, surprise ending to this show. Cavebabble Drinks Odd Things.
Stay tuned and keep listening.
Peanut butter and jelly beer. You may also go over to Facebook, join our Facebook group. We would love to have you do that. Or you may subscribe to us on iTunes. Search for Cavebabble Podcast. Just like that. It has like 4 P's in it. Cavebabble Podcast, and please subscribe on iTunes. And if you like what you hear, give us a few stars, nice review. We would appreciate that. That would help more than anything. And yes, at this time, enjoy Cavebabble Drinks Odd Things. Cavebabble eats. Oh, drinks odd things.
Or eats. I mean, it could be an eat. Maybe it's so thick that it's eating.
We are trying a beer.
A beer?
Made by Logboat Brewing, Columbia, Missouri, I believe is where that's at. It is called Mammoth. Mammoth. It's got a mammoth on the front. And it is peanut butter and jelly beer.
Alcoholic peanut butter jelly.
Sounds hideous.
I mean, it's a pretty can, honestly. It's very pretty.
It is. It looks rather peanut butter and jelly-ish with...
that is true.
I thought it was a cream soda at first.
It's liquid.
Doesn't smell anything like
goobers.
peanut butter and jelly.
Does it smell like a beer?
It's
oh, it's a dark one.
It looks disgusting.
It's like...
I mean, it's a dark beer.
It's like a medium.
Well, it's a medium jar.
Okay, it's not dark,
It's like somebody with a really
like
bad
a deep,
bladder infection.
It's like a burnt caramel.
I was going to say more like liver failure.
Oh,
But
yeah, liver failure.
It looks like liver
It looks
failure.
like somebody, with liver kidney failure.
There you
we've
go.
gotten very specific on this.
Everybody,
please look up.
So it smells like
more foam.
It smells like Budweiser.
It smells like butt wiper.
Oh, it smells like cheap beer.
It smells like Budweiser.
It smells like cheap beer. Now, I like Logboat is a microbrew, and I like some of theirs.
I do smell the
like
overtone
their
of peanuts.
I don't.
Dark matter, I like.
Swirl it.
You're not a big beer drinker either.
Their bobber is pretty
Swirl
good.
it.
They have a decent IPA.
If you swirl it, you can smell the peanut
Can you
butter.
smell the peanut butter if you swirl it?
Smell the jelly.
Yeah, you can.
But swirling it gives you the...
Yes, I don't know.
I do. I smell the peanut butter and the jelly when I swirl it.
All right.
I mean, I smell...
Dink,
down the hatch.
clink and dink.
Dink it and sink it.
Sink it.
Oh, now you're going to get copyright stricken.
Oh. They don't have a
Dink it
copyright
and
thing.
sink. Oh, yeah. Do they?
Ugh.
Yep, there it is. Right at the end. Tastes like dog food.
Maybe a little bit of a peanut butter aftertaste.
It's more like a coffee.
Yeah.
I don't taste any peanut butter.
No, not at all. It's like a chocolate and coffee.
That's not a good beer.
That tastes extremely almost watered down.
I mean, it probably doesn't help that we have our ice.
Definitely watery.
Oh no, this I wouldn't call that. That's just
that has got to be a low alcohol content one.
Yeah, definitely watery.
0.
This is a 4%. Yo.
Okay.
This is just above a
wine cooler.
3.5 wine cooler.
When the taste just goes like this, that's watered down.
4.8 is what they call it session beer, which is sit around and have some beers and chat at the pub.
Yeah, so sorry guys, that's a fail because I guess
it doesn't even taste like peanut butter jelly. Like
it
there's
smells like peanut
maybe
butter.
a slight peanut. I just don't get any jelly at all.
You know, maybe after a few drinks, you then have this one and go, wow.
Wow. Tastes like the sandwich.
That's just not good. I don't know what I would even call that if I didn't know what it was.
Cheap beer.
If you put it into a glass without knowing what can it came out of,
yeah, that's got to be the least favorite of theirs that I like.
Did you like it?
They make some really nice beers, and that is not one of them.
I actually could drink it, so it's not bad. So,
I like how their mammoth has like a human ear.
I liked that. It reminded me of Coors.
It has a human ear and a human eye.
Yeah, Miller Lite.
There you go, Miller Lite. Yeah, it's the beer that
That's the most human-like Mammoth.
If you add Miller Lite and you add a little bit of coffee taste to it, then
if you
right
tasted
there.
one, you would know the difference, but it's not.
See, that's a beer I think I could drink.
Yeah, it's
if
like
I
a light
drank
beer that
these.
has some
I don't like
crap put in
that
it.
weird aftertaste thing it gives you.
Here,
It
have some more.
It tastes more like the artificial chocolate rather than peanut butter.
You go, kitty.
Like a chocolate Tootsie Roll Pop.
It tastes like a.
And then at the end, there's that coffee taste. So.
I mean, its consistency is a little better than light beer. I mean, it's better than the Bud Light I drink during
It
football
tastes
games.
decent. It just doesn't look decent.
It really is ugly, isn't it? It's like a
Is anybody
medium
going to want cake right now, or do you want
I'll totally take cake.
right now?
Take a piece, sure.
Cake right now. Okay.
All right, no, thank you.
Cavebabble eats not so odd things. It's a birthday.
And
We're
whose
lighting his birthday
is it?
cake.
I don't know, my
Mine.
30th birthday, I thought.
Yeah, what's the deal? Amber thought, well,
I thought it was
Let's
30.
do these ones first, because I can't.
So I don't know where my
You
last...
thought you were 30?
Yeah, no, yeah.
It's all right. Anytime anyone asks,
they're the
my
colors.
oh, they are.
Oh, that's really cute.
Oh my gosh,
if you don't get all the way around.
Like your
I'm
head.
about to say, watch your fingers.
I like the colors.
Oh, don't turn off the light because I'm recording.
Don't turn off the
Oh my gosh. I'm sure someone would fall for that.
It's really, it's fine. It's just not peanut butter or jelly.
Yeah, it's nothing like what they're
Let's see
what
if
they're
my phone
saying. it
dies
is.
again by trying to take a picture.
Well, there are 3 more in there if you'd like them.
I will partake.
Go for it.
Yay! Oh, right.
Hey, make a wish.
But it's in a circle. And I have
Oh,
a
why
claw.
wasn't Kai's here?
There you go. Bye-bye, everyone. See if it stops.
Try to keep that one lit up.
Wasn't that cool?
Good.
It tasted nothing like peanut butter, nothing like jelly, and was just, to me, it really wasn't like a Budweiser. It was like a brown ale. To me, it was like a brown ale. Anyway, you didn't like it either, did you?
No, I actually liked it because it was mild. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was very mild.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy for me to say. Mild. Okay, that's it. All right, everyone. Thanks for all the downloads and listens. Go on your own voyage now. And until next week, we are out of here.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Dun, 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 dun. Cavebabble.
Kill him.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.